Hello everyone and welcome to my review of One Piece Chapter 940. We start with a cover page of Bartolomeo. He's using his barrier power to protect the Straw Hat figurines, and around the barrier you'll find other figurines that are references to the Chinese zodiac. Well, with the exception of two, I think, because there's a cat and there's a panda. I think the panda is a reference to Panda Man. The cat, I don't know, but well, it could be a reference to Nami. But there's also like a dog that looks like a flamingo from the side, but for the most part, you'll see the Chinese zodiac there. So apparently Law decided to leave because he was too upset about what Shinobu said about accusing Beppo and the others of leaking the info. I actually like this a lot because it introduces some much needed tension in the second act of Wano. Like, we don't know what Law is going to do, what's going to happen to him. Is he going to get caught? Is he going to, want to distance himself from the alliance? So it causes some inner conflict that I think, I think it's much needed at this point. Again, just to add a little bit more tension, a little bit more flavor to the second act of Wano. We have a brief conversation between Usopp and Nami that I hope is a joke, because they're basically saying that if they had been caught, if they had been in Beppo's position, they would have sold out the alliance. And so my first sarcastic instinct was to look at that conversation and be like, wow, look how far you've come. So I really do hope they're joking, because if they're not, like, even if this is like a joke, to me it's not funny anymore. After everything they've been through, after like being in the crew for so long, they're still cracking jokes about selling out their friends. Anyway, an old lady shows up for exposition purposes, and Usopp calls her the Asuki Baba. The Asuki Baba is kind of like the Japanese version of La Llorona. As the story goes, this lady often appears near a stream, and she cleans her beans there, and she kind of like sings a song, and she waits for children to come near her, and then she eats them. So it's kind of like a story that Japanese parents tell their kids in order to get them to behave. And so the old lady starts talking about Bingo, Bongo, Bungo, and essentially this is a group of three men that we've actually seen before. We saw them in chapter 928, and so what this does is that it ends up redeeming Komurasaki's character. It explains Komurasaki's motives, if you will, because Bingo, the old man who's bald, was actually the man that was giving Komurasaki money during that flashback. I don't know if you remember, like he actually, he was giving her money, and then we all thought that Komurasaki was just this horrible person because she lied to him, but it turns out that Bingo was actually profiting out of people's suffering. So the scheme that these three men cooked up was to set people's houses on fire and then charge them for rebuilding those houses via selling them lumber, and then also charge them for the funeral services. So, I mean, this is a horrible, horrible thing. This is a horrible guy. And, I think at one point, well, during Komurasaki's introduction, we did feel sorry for Bingo, but it's like, I mean, this is basically karma. So she was taking care of it. She was like making these men fall in love with her and then getting that money. And because of the fact that she's taking from those people, and we don't know what she's doing with the money, like, this makes Komurasaki a candidate to be the Witching Hour Boy. Because we know that the Witching Hour Boy is the Wano equivalent of Robin Hood, where the character takes from the rich to give to the poor. So I highly recommend that you reread chapter 928, because it just makes this part of the chapter have more depth, and it just connects the dots a lot better. We find out that Yasu is Toko's father. And it's a little bit weird, and it's a little bit conflicting, because even though he's going around helping poor people in the town of Ibizu, the hag, the old lady, also mentions that he sold Toko to the capital. And not only did he sell her to the capital, but she ended up in the pleasure district. So even though he's recognized locally as a symbol of hope and a good guy, the fact that he sold Toko just, sent off a whole lot of alarms in my head. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Now, it's revealed in the chapter that Toko actually gives him the money that she earns back in the capital, and then he goes around and distributes the earnings, right, to help people. So he could potentially be the Witching Hour Boy, except he doesn't fit the silhouette that we got back in chapter 926. But we do know that Toko has basically been friends or worked under Komurasaki. So it could have been that Komurasaki was taking money from the wrongdoers in the capital, and then she would give it to Toko, and then Toko would give it to Yasu. So at the very least, I think it's logical to assume that perhaps Yasu was part of the Witching Hour Boy effort. Now apparently people seem to trust Yasu very, very easily because of his friendly nature and the fact that he compliments people. Which I still don't know how to feel about that, because it's like in a way it's okay, but then it's like he could have been the one that could have leaked the information. Like even the Straw Hats didn't even think about questioning who he was. So it could be played as a gag, but it could also be foreshadowing for some serious consequences later on. Then we go to Udon and they're fighting Armadillo Man. And Hyogoro mentions that the concept of Haki to the outside world is known as Ryo in the land of Wano. Now, what's crazy is that Ryo actually translates to Sakura flow, or flowing Sakura, or flowing cherry blossom. And this is how crazy things are, right? In the scene where Zoro's master talks about the theoretical beginnings of Haki, there is a cherry blossom Sakura tree behind him. Now we see Luffy going to punch Armadillo Man in the face with a darkened armament Haki arm, right? And I just, again, I want to bring attention to something that I noticed in the previous chapter, which is that when Hyogoro does it, when he does the palm strike, there is an aura surrounding his palm. It's the same thing here with Luffy. There is an aura, surrounding his fist. So he's not there yet, but, I think the beginning part of getting this type of Haki down is to emanate an aura coming from whatever it is you're using to attack. And I say this because we know it can't be Gear Second that he's using, because Gear Second plus Dark Haki equals Red Hawk. So it has to be a special type of aura that is specific to this type of new armament Haki that he's trying to develop. Like I said in my last review, this type of Haki requires the user to have a different type of mentality, one that offers less resistance and allows the Haki energy within oneself to flow naturally. Again, I go back to what Luffy said about Rayleigh's movements, in that he noticed that Rayleigh's movements were a lot lighter than his own. If we go back to the Alabasta fight between Zoro and Mr. One, Zoro says, before that final strike, he says, I'm not going to defend anymore. I'm just going to attack like with one swipe, and that'll be it. But he's very, very calm before doing so. Again, he's noticing the rhythm of things. He's noticing his heartbeat. Even the music in that scene changes to some pretty cool, like meditation-like type music. And again, I just want to reiterate, in case I wasn't clear before, that it's only because Zoro feels like he's in the brink of death. This is a life and death situation, right? So because of this, that's why he's able to enter this stage. Again, we know that Haki blooms in extreme situations, and it just wouldn't make any sense if that weren't the case. We get a transition over to nighttime in Udon, and we get this little weird like half circle thing in the transition panel, and I don't know if it's supposed to be a sakura petal that's falling or if it's supposed to be a half moon. Queen has left his chair, and I don't know if he left, the mines or whatever, but there's a tent next to the chair, so maybe that's where he's camping out, maybe that's where he's going to sleep. Luffy uses King's Haki on the fodder so that he can talk to Hyogoro. We find out that Hyogoro actually met Roger at some point, which should come as no surprise because we already knew that he knew Rayleigh. Back a couple of chapters, he mentioned oh, Rayleigh, like what are you talking about, Straw Hat? So he goes way back. And Luffy says that he wants to defeat all the Yonko because he wants to be like Roger. They start talking about Roger and it cuts off. So it's a little bit of a tease there, but then we get Caribou because it turns out that the keys that Raizo found, the ones that he mentioned were not for Luffy's handcuffs, were actually for Caribou's handcuffs. Now there's a scene where Caribou's being very friendly. He's asking Luffy to actually take him aboard his ship, which personally I think Caribou would fit in a lot better with Kid's crew. But I think this is like a throwback to like a scene back in Punk Hazard where Luffy just doesn't question people. Well, speaking of Yasu, right? But like there's a scene in Punk Hazard where Law and Luffy like declare their alliance, and then Robin says, Luffy, I respect your position. I will go along with your choice, but pirate alliances usually end in betrayal. And then Luffy just looks at Law and he's like, are you going to betray me? And Law's like, nope. And he's like, okay, then it's settled then. And then Usopp just gets mad at that. And it's played for comedy in this scene and in the Caribou scene. But we also know from the Rayleigh flashback that Luffy's observation Haki kind of allows him to sense people's emotions or feelings. So I wonder how much of that actually plays into his decisions when it comes to trusting people. Hyogoro says that there's 4 other prison mines that are about the same size as the one that they're being kept in. And so I'm guessing that maybe Killer is being kept in one of those 4. Maybe when Kid busted out of the prison, that's where he headed towards to be able to free Killer, or maybe Killer escaped his prison first, and that's how he was able to free Kid. But anyway, the point here is that this is foreshadowing a massive prison outbreak. Hyogoro says that the Yakuza bosses are also being kept there, and Shinobu, when they were in the bathhouse, Shinobu said that there's 5 Yakuza bosses total. We get the silhouettes of 4 of them. Oda loves his silhouettes. Kawamatsu, again, a silhouette. Denjiro is still a silhouette. Bunch of silhouettes in One Piece. It's getting out of hand. Because it's not like we know any of these people. Or do we? Witching Hour Boy is also a silhouette. And Lady Toki is also a silhouette. Oden is a silhouette. Wano is the official arc of silhouettes. So they're gonna free Kawamatsu, and then Big Mom is approaching the prison. And I don't think it's a coincidence that both Big Mom and Luffy happened to be hungry at the same time. In this chapter, Luffy's stomach was growling, so that kind of gives him a similar goal to Big Mom, which is obviously to find food and be fed. That's going to play a role in this. I thought the chapter was fine. You know what it felt like when I read that last panel? And granted, I know that One Piece is written for a younger audience, right? But it felt like Oda wanted us to read that final panel of Big Mom approaching the prison and be like, oh my gosh, Big Mom is arriving. Did you know that? Oh, what a shocker for next week, folks. No sleep confirmed. It was just a setup chapter, but let me know what you thought about it down below in the comments section. Like the video if you did. I appreciate it. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already, and I will catch you guys later. Thanks a bunch. Take care. Bye.